Okay, guys. So this is where we left off in our North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa essay outline assignment. So now most of you should be finished with 1 through 5, so you've had plenty of time to do that. Hopefully you did. If you do not have that done yet, you'll want to make sure you get into that real quickly here, okay? But I want to go through and explain the outline portion in a little more detail just to help you see how this assignment goes. This should go pretty quick because everything that you need for this assignment, pretty much all that information is included in the correctly done answers that you've already done here. Okay, so let's go look down at the format. All right, so first you have the introduction that's composed of 2 parts, the context and the thesis statement. And I apologize about the formatting on this. For many of you, it's probably gotten a little wonky. Feel free to delete any of the bold boxes if you need to and move the text to somewhere you can type on it. I did not realize that the formatting would move around on you like that. Okay, so that won't happen again, but unfortunately, I can't fix that right now since it's already been distributed to you. All right, so when we're looking at the intro, everything you need should be up here. So in this case, you'll go back up here. Now, where you talked about the context, okay, that's 5 right here. I want you to write 2 sentences that tie that current event, that context that you found. I want you to write 2 sentences that relates that current event to what we're talking about, which is regions within Africa. So you'd write those 2 sentences right here in the context. So in this case, I brought up civil wars in Africa as kind of my current event, my present day trend that is going on in Africa. So let's go ahead, let's write 2 sentences that tie that in with what we're looking at. Okay. Wars are common occurrences. Oops, that's not how you spell that. Throughout Africa. While this remains a constant trend regardless of region, there are many differences, many regional differences in Africa. All right, so there we go. And that ties in what we're talking about with current events, and that brings us from the greater context of Africa and what is currently going on in Africa to our topic of regional differences within Africa. Now we need to add a thesis statement. And in this case, you can either create one that fits a bit better with what you were looking at, or you can just piece this together directly from what you did in 2 and 3. So in this case, I'm going to do the latter. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to pull down what I said up here. Oops, if I can get it to stay highlighted, I will. I'll come down. That is going to be the last part of my thesis statement. Go ahead and I'll paste that right in there. Go back up and I'll actually grab my counterclaim. I realize I'm doing this out of order a little bit, but that's okay. All right, so the counterclaim is that the economics or the economies of both regions are similar, specifically in that they have low or lower income. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a sentence for our counterclaim to begin right here. So we'll say both North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are known for having poorly developed economies. There's my counterclaim. I'll go ahead, I will add this part of my sentence stem, however. Then I'm going to need to add my argument 1 and my argument 2. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to grab both of my claims. Go down here, however, I'm going to add my first claim. You'll see that I'm piecing this together from what I've already written. That's perfectly fine. That's actually why I had you do the 5 questions first. Okay, and that leaves us with a very simple but effective thesis statement. Now we just need to go up here and make sure that we add our y in our formula. And that will be the last part that's actually the statement of our claim. And we'll connect that together with our connective word. In this case, we're just using therefore for the time being. And we will go ahead, highlight that in yellow, and we should be good to go. Now I'm just going to be fixing the formatting as I go. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Okay, I understand that you may just want to delete that box. All right, so let's read through what we have. Both North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are known for having poorly developed economies. However, North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are very different in terms of their physical characteristics, and North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are very different because of their cultural characteristics like language and religion. Therefore, the regional characteristics of North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are very different. That is a fine thesis statement. Now here, we may not need to have North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa twice right in a row there. So we could say North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. We could go up here, since we already have that in the first sentence, we could say both regions are very different in terms of their physical characteristics and their cultural characteristics. We can actually delete part of that sentence stem to make this more streamlined and still have the same idea. Okay, so we have both North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are known for having poorly developed economies. However, both regions are very different in terms of their physical characteristics and their cultural characteristics like language and religion. Therefore, the regional characteristics of North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are very different. Great thesis, we can move on. Make sure we highlight that as well. Okay. Now over here, this is where we will, of course, oops, let me see. Okay. All right, this is where we will just go ahead and verbatim take the first claim that we've already written. And I'd already copy and pasted that in here, but that's just because I was pulling that for part of my thesis, for the A part of my thesis. So over here, this will form the thesis statement for my first, or the claim for my first body paragraph. Okay, we're good to go. Now after that, we do need to add supporting evidence. And so this is where it's going to vary a bit person to person. Now again, I don't need you writing me the full essay. I just need bullet points. This is where you get incredibly specific. Okay, which individual countries? Did you count a certain number of countries from a source within a region that represented something? What are the trends? How do you know that? And you just bullet point, several bullet points for whatever supporting evidence you would use in a good sized paragraph that defends this, ideally using multiple sources. All right. Body paragraph 2, we're going to go up do the same thing. You just go ahead and take this right here. Just gonna bring that down because that, of course, forms the first sentence of our body paragraph. Boom, we are good to go. Now we know we're talking about cultural characteristics like language and religion. You go back through your charts and you give me any evidence that you would include in your essay. Okay, so you're going to need at least 2 separate lines of argumentation that back this up right here. Ideally, the evidence that you use for those will come from multiple sources. Okay, at least 2. If you have a paragraph that only uses one source to back it up, you need a broader topic sentence. Okay, but we talked about that when we did the first part of this assignment. Okay, then finally, this is going to be a little bit different. Okay, you haven't had to do much with the counterclaims yet. We started out with a statement of the counterclaim at the beginning of our thesis, so we know what we are going to be arguing. So in this case, I want you to go back up right here, talking about that, so you can make some version of that, okay? In this case, well, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. In this case, you can go ahead and use a sentence stem that I'll give you to start your topic sentence for the counterclaim. And you can just be completely straightforward about the fact that you're talking about a counterclaim. You can just say the most significant or important counterclaim to the idea that, I'll abbreviate here, North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are very different is, and then of course you're going to fill in what you put. The similarity between their economies. Now you could stop there, okay? But you do have to remember that you are going to need to refute this counterclaim. You're going to need to explain why your earlier evidence is more important. So I would encourage you to actually add a little bit more on to your topic sentence here that brings that up. And we'll use another connective word to draw those together. So let's just use however, because that's what we've been using. Okay. Now you can use other connective words, but I know a lot of you may not have the grammar background to do that quite yet, to do that free form. You can get there, just use however for now. So the most significant counterclaim to the idea that North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa are very different is the similarity between their economies. However, the physical and cultural differences outweigh this. All right, we are good to go. Now this is where, once again, that formatting is getting annoying, so feel free just to delete the square if it's bothering you. Okay, I understand that you're gonna have to monkey around with it a little bit, and that's totally fine. After that, you go ahead and you just bullet point the evidence that you would use. So both the evidence that the economies are similar and then you might want to bullet point how you're going to justify this last part, that the physical and cultural differences outweigh this.